Coming up on this episode of Belief Hole.
And you get into the occult ritual of like you're believing that you're
it's actually
dealing
doing
with
something
gods
that's going to give you like
blood
powers.
sacrifices, drinking blood.
Very few photographs of him as a child, and one of the few is
We're
him
going
in
into this right now?
Look away for a minute. Hey, little fella. I'm talking about. I'm not going into that. I'm talking about.
For a minute.
Hey, little fella. That's so
talking
derogatory
about. Sorry, that was
and kind of hilarious.
I'll take it.
Well, Justin Bieber was definitely a girl at one point.
Okay.
He's got a tattoo of the all-seeing eye on his arm.
Well, you don't see the death.
But you hear the yelling and
Well, we've all heard the grizzly man being eaten
just a
alive.
lot of anxiety created. Yeah, they lift the rug up and there's a pentagram like
And he starts
fuck, that
sweating and
explains
he
it.
gets all nervous and
Yeah,
like
it's
he's just
weird.
like, that guy's totally normal.
Anyway,
Jesus Christ. He looks like
a
he's possessed
shaman.
by the devil when he talks.
On this show.
We're all gonna die after this episode, by the way. We're gonna get hunted down.
Don't talk about Sony.
Sodomy is just butthole, right? Conspiracy.
Synchronicity, Sasquatch,
Donald Trump.
alien races, Satanism in Hollywood, MK Ultra,
Pleiadians.
Mandela effect,
Close the door, Ed.
Jeremy, close your door.
inner
Snowflakes.
Earth, disagreements,
My lab.
JFK assassination,
Flat Earth.
Corey Feldman, magicians are demons, specters and spooks, sleep paralysis, Muslim Islamicist, the gender spectrum, alternative history, shadow people,
Quiet, I'm trying to say words with the mouth.
psilocybin, sorcery, poltergeist, sulforaphane, evolution, is it real?
Skull and Bones. I would never talk about it. That's old. Y2K.
Cover-ups, the Oklahoma City bombing, vampire.
Well, hello.
There it is. There it is.
Episode number 2.
Satanism and the music industry.
Is it just the music industry, or is it
We're gonna go
Hollywood?
We're
Or
gonna dance around it. We're gonna do the devil's
First of all,
dance.
let's introduce ourselves. I'm John.
I'm Chris.
Hello, John. I'm Jeremy.
We're brothers.
The Brothers 3.
Brothers three. Three. That's a demonic number.
Brothers 3. So,
Or is it a
That's a
godly
lucky number.
we are here to discuss a more specific topic than last time.
Yes, we've
Satanism in Hollywood, Satanism in the music industry.
How did you preview this episode? What were the words you used?
I don't
I just remember
exactly.
the end of it being about and Satan. But
And Satan.
there may have been a. Yeah, I don't feel like we have to limit it to just the music industry
so
or
It's occultism, Satanism, anything that has to do with sort of like
demonic influence.
Yeah.
Well, we'll
occult-
see where this
Yeah.
episode goes. I think the idea, right, was to have a discussion about Satanism in the music industry. The Faustian deals with the devil, like the Faustian deals, where throughout. Well, that's part of it. Throughout history, the deals that people have become famous.
Selling their soul for that.
who were kind of nobodies, and then kind of
also-
mysteriously, majestically became these.
Well, and that's the
figures
key
of-
point, right? Is that they begin as nothing and they're turned into something.
Yeah.
Because
I
of the
also
deal.
want to talk about it maybe later about the prevalence of obviously occult symbolism in modern like music videos, which is just rampant. It's everywhere.
Right, which is interesting. I mean, and
It's rampant.
that's kind of the difference too.
It is.
It's pervasive and it's
pervasive,
rampant.
kind of the
rampant.
interesting difference too is I think it's become a mainstream, kind of a fashionable thing to allude to occultism, Illuminati, even Satanism.
Oh, yeah.
With a lot of like popular people today. Like you look in history, and there were like witch burnings and people trying to like hide the fact, or just being like right out accused of shit they didn't do. But it was such a big thing, and people are so easy to believe. Now it's kind of the inverse, where no one believes it, but at the same time, people are so openly into it.
Yeah.
So it's like a total like 180, 360.
Yeah, it is
1020.
odd. Yeah. It's like
Tony Hawk video
open
game.
in plain sight or hidden in plain sight.
Open in plain sight.
Hidden in
in
plain
the
sight.
shadows, but open in plain sight. Well, I also think that like it's interesting. You look at the environment that we're in now. When people were afraid of being called a witch or being accused of some sort of demonic influence, the church had a fairly negative stranglehold on the culture, where to the point where people are being burned alive.
Yeah.
Now it's
just for an accusation.
but now it's the inverse, where
Right.
like if you go to a church, like that's kind of a dirty word in Hollywood, in like the mainstream. If you believe in God, oh, you do? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't really want to associate with you.
It's everyone that's
me and my evolution bumper sticker are gonna
outside
drive
of
away
Middle
from you.
America,
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah. I mean, it's just it's a total different dynamic.
No,
So
I think
yeah,
you're right, but I think it's interesting.
That's not true either, but that's an exaggeration. But it's kind of like, religion is a dirty word now, and it's much cooler to be associated with the edge
with the
fringe
occult
of.
and
Yeah,
I mean, but
depending
to
on
be
where you are,
fair-
obviously.
But to be fair,
yeah,
like
in the media, for
but
sure.
to be fair, like we've always been.
Yes.
I think the three of us have always
grew up Lutheran.
we've been interested in the occult, in the mysteries, the strange goings-ons of our world,
the hidden truths.
of our world. Like that's always been. It's because it's a compelling, kind of sexy, at the same time
sexy.
nerdy thing to be
Male
interested
gossip
in.
for nerds.
It's male gossip for nerds.
And weirdos.
People who like a different storyline than the
For sure.
I think that's the draw, is that it's just something different that you. I think there's several components to making something like the occult or conspiracy so fascinating. It's that it's something different than what you've been taught. So there's that kind of edge to it.
Yeah,
But
and
then
I think
also-
we're filled with. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
okay.
But we're filled to the gills with a world that is focused on boring, bland.
Yeah,
right.
At least in my mind.
Yeah, right. And you're trying to make sense of a world where they're telling you one thing and it doesn't translate to why things are still going, why things are happening the way they are, and then you connect a few dots from some YouTube videos, which sounds like woo woo,
Right.
But like in reality, like
That's such an awful term.
I mean, in reality, like a lot of researchers on YouTube or wherever you find your infotainment, like that's backed usually by sources, people that have written books, researchers, that we all know, and that's what's so fascinating is like the dots they put together in a logical fashion make more sense sometimes than the reality we're presented in media, because we know the bias in media. So it's just
Well, they're like, look at the entertainers, look at what's going on, and they're giving us all this information back about what they're really into, like
Right.
all the symbolism. They're like, pay attention to
Illuminati
this
and-
ridiculous nonsense, but at the same time, they're saying, look at what we're really involved
yeah,
in.
like none of this matters, but and yet
Yeah,
we're gonna
exactly.
shove it in your
It's so
face.
weird.
nonstop.
And we're going to get into that
Hidden
in the
in plain
episode,
sight.
right?
Yes, and we're
It's
going to
be-
get into that in this episode.
Perfect.
But like on a personal note, it's interesting because as you guys are talking, I realized like, I think we kind of are fascinated by the same things, but kind of for slightly different reasons. Like I think, as you're saying, like the idea that we're kind of being lied to. There's more underneath the mainstream information feed. Like there's things like the contrarian kind of thing, right? Like there's
like a lot.
okay, I'll try to cut that down a little bit. What I was
Wait,
going
what
to
is
say was
contrarian, by the way?
Contrarian means like you always say something
like if I
contrary
said
to
it,
what
if
people
I
are-
said that wall's blue, you would say, well, but it's kind of red.
Or do we
like
know
the
that it's blue,
opposite.
or maybe I'm experiencing blue in a different way that you experience blue, and to me
like
it's actually
you just
red.
kind of always want to take the
Okay.
opposite side.
I gotcha.
But
yes,
I
I
didn't
like
mean
that.
that.
That's
But
a
I
good
didn't
word.
mean that in a negative way. What I was saying was like I think that the reason why I became and have always been interested in like paranormal, supernatural, occult, conspiracy, all that stuff, all those keywords, I think is because to me, I think, as you grow up, and like you guys would agree that like I'm a nostalgic type of person, but I think that there's a part of being a child and growing up, you start to lose a sense of mystery in the world and a sense of like the impossible being possible. So I think it's why I always gravitated to the supernatural, the paranormal,
That's
the
a good point.
conspiracy. And I think we find the same things intriguing, but I think you come from a perspective of a sort of more like misinformation bent. Like there's a power structure that's in place that's keeping
Deliberate
things from us specifically. Yeah, which I'm not disagreeing with, but I think the sources of our interest are somewhat different, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, why you're compelled.
Yeah,
to,
I'm compelled because I think there's more magic in the world than
Or you
people will
want there
admit
to
to
be.
in the mainstream. I think there is magic. I think there is like a different. There's worlds set apart from our worlds that are right next door. Whether you call it magic or interdimensionality or quantum entanglement or whatever you want to call it, there are things going on that we are unaware of. And I think you definitely are more prone to the conspiracy side of things. Like they know what's going on, they're keeping it from us, and I don't disagree with that.
Well, don't you think that your draw to that is natural? Like I think that all of us want to see the supernatural and the magical in the world around us. Don't you think that it's possible that the world we live in now, if you believe in an elite structure, if you believe in a hidden hand or whatever you want to refer to it as, that kind of keeps us in the system is designed to root out a belief in magic or the supernatural or spirituality. It's designed to like put that in a woo box. You don't want to touch the boo box.
The boo box.
The boo box.
The boo box.
But so you grow up, and as an adult, like, well, hey, that's all just, why would I waste my time even thinking about that stuff when I have to go to work and I got to earn the paycheck and I got to pay.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. The difference
mortgage.
there is like where you, I think, and I'm not saying you're wrong at all, but I think you definitely come from the idea of like, okay, this society is all built around us being blinded
Not
by
the whole
the truth.
Society,
right?
But
there
there are factions that are pushing a certain agenda,
right?
And I totally think that's true.
And I'm not saying that's not true, but I'm saying
you
that,
focus more on the mystical, magical parts.
Right, where I think where Jeremy's saying is
you need
like
both. You need people that are aware of the
I
dark
agree.
and the light.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you there. I'm just saying what Jeremy was just saying there, the idea that
the system.
Yeah, like the system that's been created to keep you like go to work in your cubicle, do your office job, blah blah blah.
Were you listening to me, or were you paying attention to the woman in the red
It's
dress?
the devil.
Right.
It's Satan.
That's all Satan.
Well,
That's a good question too. Like,
let's bring it back
here's a
in.
good question because on our last episode we talked about religion when it comes to really extreme conspiracy theories like flat Earth, for example. And one of the things we discussed was like when it comes up that someone has a YouTube channel that's like Jesus is coming 2018, and it's like, oh, I can't believe that person. But yet we're talking about Satanism. And like, so my question is, does there have to be a Christian theistic God to have a satanic power?
Or just
like,
be-
are they one
Or
and the
just
same?
the polar opposites, like
Right.
the yin and the yang
The
in
dark
the
and the
universe,
light.
like the destructive force and the
Right.
creative
Yeah,
force.
so I
Whether
guess
you call it
that's what I'm asking.
Satan
What your
or
opinion is on that?
Baphomet or a negative force or the old
the
gods.
old gods.
Right, or whatever you want to
What
call
was
it.
that movie from the 80s that was so good?
The Gate?
The Gate.
There is a passageway to the most evil place you can imagine. A gate behind which the demons wait to take back what was once theirs.
Not important.
It's important. Ties right in.
Is that the heater?
How did the heater turn on?
Oh, probably, because what did you turn it down to, like 70?
I thought I turned to like 65. Hold on.
Okay.
It is getting pretty cold in here.
please.
You might have turned to like 10 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll turn this. I thought it was off. How do you turn it off?
Just unplug it.
Technology.
Can't figure out the heater
We operate a podcast, but I can't turn off a heater.
with 3 buttons.
Oh, Chris, you're going to...
Just yank it out of the wall.
Trying to do.
Sure.
It's out enough. Yeah, the lights stop
All right,
flashing.
let's get back to
Okay,
it.
so anyway, yeah, no matter what you call it, the positive versus the negative, the dark versus light, or even the potential that those, if you believe in an elite structure and a conspiracy, hidden hand, blah blah blah, those people believing that they can summon the old gods or that there is, a dark energy that they can gain
Moloch.
power from, Moloch or Baphomet or
Right.
Satan, whatever. If they're operating from that belief, it doesn't necessarily matter the truth behind those beliefs as much as what they're doing in the world because they believe it, right? And
So Molech being the owl god, right? Wasn't that the Bilderbergers? Was that
yeah,
what it was?
the giant statue at Bilderberg.
This is where we start to get off on like random tangents.
Bohemian Grove.
Well, I don't think it's a random tangent. We're talking.
Chris just wanted to provide context for what Moloch was.
Oh, we should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But
a lot of people want to know.
anyway, so to get into
We should shoot over to you, Chris, because you have a story.
Let's
Like,
shoot.
let's
Somewhat of a story.
Well, we're gonna get into. We're gonna start talking about specifics right now about people that have.
let's get in the meat of it.
Let's start. Let's start with your story.
Okay.
There's no pressure. You're not giving a speech.
No, I know. It's
It's Chris's first time giving a speech on a
For
podcast
information.
about Satan. It's a topic near and dear to his heart.
Satan.
wow. It's creepy when you say that in the microphone, like an old Baptist woman.
Mom,
is
if you're
converting.
listening, don't be worried.
That's a Dairy Queen out of my computer. Okay.
We believe in reptiles now.
In flat Earth.
Well, I think we all know, or a lot of people have heard the folk tales about,
Daniel Johnson.
people in general in history who've made pacts with the devil.
Right.
You know, for centuries, this has been like an ongoing thing, and
selling your soul for money and fortune.
Yeah, or fame, or an ability. I think that's kind of like the beginning. And you've heard stories. A lot of people have heard stories about like Robert Johnson.
I don't think anyone knows who that is.
Well, okay, yeah, I was gonna say like
Blues player.
people familiar, like people.
Okay, Bob Dylan.
In current
Good
culture,
example,
Bob Dylan. Yeah.
yeah, I would say in current culture, people believe. Or people look at like Katy Perry and people involved in Hollywood and in the music industry and think like, wow, it's so obvious that they're doing these occult things. Like
I don't think most people think that though.
Yeah.
No. I'm
Give an
saying
example.
it's people that are listening.
Yeah, people that know that listen to the show might
think that there's some sort
but
of
most
involvement.
people don't look at that and go they're involved in occult
For
practices.
example, why? Like why you say Katy Perry? Like
Right.
what? You mean like the
all the symbolism.
symbolisms? Like what?
Oh my God, I could look this up right now. We could go into in-depth
I believe
detail.
you. I know that. I'm just saying for the show. Like we should probably
okay,
mention.
Fair enough. Every single one of her videos, there is literally like pyramids, all-seeing eyes, just riddled through the whole thing.
Right. And what's that hand sign everybody does?
The one eye
The
type
one eye thing,
thing.
which is only exclusively a sign of what?
Well, that's 666.
Is that what it is?
It looks like the OK sign.
Yeah. And they put over their
It's
eyeball.
also
Especially
just
over
the
the eye.
one eye. It's
The
like
one
the
eye, yeah.
all-seeing eye. It's
But
just
that's,
the one eye.
But that's an admitted like hand gesture, right? Like that's admittedly what that means.
She
and
has
you
a
see
show.
all these guys doing it, all these
This
artists
is hard
doing
because
it.
I really want to pull up like a bunch of stuff right now.
That's what
but-
we should be doing.
Why don't you pull it up and Chris can continue?
Okay.
But I think I wanted to say, my point was that, we look at this stuff now, there's tons of stuff riddled on YouTube with Jay-Z and the Illuminati and devil worship and blah, blah, blah. But it's interesting that there is like this history through not only like current pop culture and in the 60s, but even back in like you were looking at some,
like
some
15th
stuff.
century. I mean, obviously, this is a theme that goes back for centuries. That there's like, if there is a devil, there is that some sort of dark spirit that's
Or even like a jinn, right? Where you could
that's like
get your
basically
wishes
granting
granted.
wishes, but for like dark reasons. Like I mean, this is something
we've
that's been
all
going
seen-
on for centuries, and I
Dude.
think what.
You just look up the Katy Perry album 2017. She's covering both of her eyes and she has an eye coming out of her mouth with just one eye.
What? Just one eye.
And then she did like a 24/7 viewing of herself, like where it was just like it was called Witness. It was based on her album.
Yeah.
Where it was
Is that
just
the name of the album?
I think the album is called Witness, but if you look up Witness, you can see that she's covering both of her. It looks so demonic.
I've heard this.
If you go to Amazon with our affiliate link right now, you can actually buy Witness. And
Oh,
how about,
I see
how
the
about
eyes
show?
with the. Okay, but so for anybody, like for me, because even though I'm kind of like, I'm in the know a little bit about.
Anytime there's an
conspiracies.
eye, like which is just everywhere, that eye that's coming out of her mouth.
Yeah.
all that eye that's just coming out of her mouth.
But like a general quote unquote normal person that sees that image would be like, that's weird. She has an eyeball in her mouth and she's covering her eyes. Like, what about that
Like, that's
screams
cool.
like Satanism?
Well,
like,
you have
what's
to
the
understand
correlation?
the all-seeing eye is like the epitome of whatever you'd call the Illuminati, the
Illuminated.
Watchers.
Right.
Like that is the symbol of the all-seeing
Right,
eye.
and that's admitted,
It's
right?
on the
That's-
pyramid. It's on the dollar bill.
Right.
Like
Well, it goes back to the Eye of Horus.
Right. But what I'm saying is that that's an admitted occult symbol. It's not
Right.
like people on the outside going like, I see that a lot of famous people do that, so that must be demonic.
Well, when you say
It's
admitted,
like
when
the-
you say admitted, you're like, I guess there's two references to be clear, like that I can think of. I'm not an expert on the occult by any means, but you look
you're
at
an
that.
experienced man.
I've watched a lot of YouTube. I've been down the
It's
well, but you see the classic picture of Alister Crowley where he's has his hands on the sides of his face and he just looks like a weird frog man, and he has the Eye of Horus in his like pyramid hat. Right, and he was deeply involved in several occult groups like the Ordo Templi Orientis and Knights of the Golden Dawn. So that's definitely an occult symbol. And then the Freemasons, the apron with the all-seeing eye, and the compass and square. Like that's an occult group because it is.
Well, that's all I'm trying to get to
somewhat
is
secret
like
group.
I'm just trying to like broaden it out for people who aren't familiar.
Yeah, just saying when you say admitted, I was just thinking of a couple references.
Yeah,
as to,
exactly,
like,
and
how
it is admitted. I mean, they're symbols drawn up by people who are, trying to bring about
end
not
of the
religions.
world.
No, I mean like people who like who are bringing organizations about based on these dark rites and these dark principles, which is like a historical thing. So these symbols are a part of that,
Right.
and So
deeply, like, symbolism is-
when you're wearing these things as t-shirts and you see this running thread, and I mean, it sounds crazy. Like I had a hard time buying into any of this when you started showing me these videos of, like Jay-Z and Katy Perry and Kesha and all these people, $, and all these people wearing like this exact same symbols all the time and making these same hand gestures. Like, well, then I was like, okay, maybe it's a fad. Like maybe it's the Illuminati is a cool thing. Like it sounds cool, and like Satanism is a cool thing.
Weird.
But like when it gets to the point where like it almost becomes like a rite of passage. If you just watch every artist who makes it to a certain point, then they start doing these symbols. You do have to sit back and wonder, like, okay, what is especially when they're not necessarily calling it out completely into the open, but they're doing it in every video, every interview, where they're wearing a shirt with a pyramid on it. With
how
an
many
all-seeing
instances
eye.
does it have to happen in music
Right,
videos
where there's more than
moves-
just a fad? It's not like a FUBU t-shirt.
or it moves from coincidence to purpose
t-shirts?
and direction,
Just a little bit of like.
Oh yeah, no, I know. That's why I sent you that image.
What image?
I sent you the image of Katy Perry with the pyramid, all-seeing eye on her t-shirt in an interview.
It just goes on and on.
Right.
I mean, you can just look.
Yeah, you look. So what John's showing me right now is like you've got everybody from Bono to
Johnny Depp
to is that Celine Dion? But just people making the one hand over the one eye, which is
little Lady Gaga.
But so you see pictures like this where there's a little young rapper kid doing it, and you're thinking like, okay, well it's fashionable, so we're gonna do it.
It's just everywhere. It's
so
blatantly like open.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing how rampant it is in our culture, and we still like. It's not like a common.
Yeah.
I mean, it may be a common thing as far as like it's cool to be in this group, but like it's not talked about. Like, why has this been going on for? I mean, it started with like, the first person I can remember seeing this happen was Lisa Left Eye Lopez with
The left eye.
Oh, with her?
She had the one eye.
She had the one eye, like that was Lisa Left Eye.
Yeah.
And she died. She was.
Yeah, which is actually interesting.
And she
because
was talking
her
about how
death-
people were.
Well, she was saying that,
chasing
and there
her.
was a demon attached to her, and she was trying to get away.
Right.
And she saw her own death. Like this is going to happen. Which,
Yeah,
by
there's
the way,
actually
if you
really
ever watched that documentary where like it's her footage from like when she's on that
It's a
trip,
really good
and-
documentary.
Yeah, but don't watch the ending of it because it's just sad.
Well, no.
Like I would, if I had known
Sadness is a part of
if
life.
I know,
Chris.
but if I had known that they were going to show the camera and her screaming as the car rolled over into the ditch and she died, I would not have finished.
Well, you
that.
don't see the death.
But you hear the yelling and
Well, we've
like,
all heard the grizzly man being eaten
just
alive.
a lot of anxiety it created.
Actually, I don't know if I've heard that. I think maybe I've just
The grizzly
had
man?
You haven't heard the
nightmares
screaming
about it
and-
because I'm terrified of bears. But
Anyways,
Anyway,
what the point is
This is an
that
uplifting
this
episode.
this is rampant through Hollywood culture, and it's not just the one eye. I mean, that's just the beginning.
right.
Like there's the
you
Masonic,
have the pyramid, you have the checkerboard floor,
checkerboard
right?
floor,
That's
which is
one.
literally in like 90% of like popular videos. I mean, it's so
Right.
openly like obvious at this point.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not even cool anymore. It's not like it looks cool. It's not
Yeah.
like a trendy, like, oh, that
Right.
looks awesome. Like I would love to just keep putting in that in every video.
Right.
Right.
It's so blatantly in front of your face at this point.
Well, I think-
if
and I
you're
think
not willing to
that's-
look at it at this point, like,
Right.
and really be like,
Well, and I think that's the argument for someone who would, like I was initially when Jeremy was showing me these videos.
Yeah, it
and
might be
I
a
was,
trend
I was like,
or
okay, well,
something.
obviously, like Illuminati is popular, and half the people that are doing these things don't even know what the Illuminati is, but they're in Hollywood and everybody's doing it, so I do it too, that kind of thing. But it gets to a certain point where it's like years go by,
Yeah,
and the
right.
same, it's this doing the same things.
and
over.
fads
let me finish real
change
quick.
and-
Yeah, and fads change, but this continues, and also the amount of that goes on, and with anybody who gets to a certain level at one point or another is doing it in an interview or wearing the shirt or whatever, or creepy situations where you wouldn't expect like something is not even like shown unless it's an accident. Like for example, that great Mark Zuckerberg video, which I
right.
wish we had video on this podcast, but they ask him to look at his jacket or something during an interview and he takes it off and they're like, oh wait, what's that on the inside? And it's like a weird like pyramid with like Illuminati symbolism on the inside of the jacket. Not something anyone would ever see, but it's like it's almost
What
like
was
a
this?
It's actually
it's
the-
almost like a spell. Like
thought
if
it
you
was
were,
like a
if you
map.
find like a pentagram under your
it's
bed.
a map, but it's a pentagram. It's actually
Yeah.
like a map of like what,
Yeah,
like
it's supposed to be a map of-
diversity. You know, it's got all these directions.
But what's so weird about it is it's on the
Go look it up,
inside.
people.
It's on the inside of his jacket.
right, so it's
like
you
no
would
one's
think
ever
that's
going
like
to
a
see it.
spell or a totem
Yeah,
that's
it's like
designed
it
to
reminds me of like you hear those
have an
stories
effect
about
on
people
you.
who like weird things are going on in their house that they just bought, and then
Oh,
they
they
move
open up the
bed,
rug.
or they move the they
Yeah,
lift the rug up, and there's a
Right.
pentagram like
and he starts
fuck, that
sweating and
explains
he
it.
gets all nervous
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
like
it's
he's
just
just
weird.
like
Before we move off this privacy thing and I thought that was a fascinating
It's
answer.
okay. You want to take off the hoodie?
You know, I never take off the hoodie.
I know you don't. What's with that? There's a group of women in the audience that wish you would. And
No.
girls?
Whoa.
All right.
Sorry. Yeah, that's okay.
Maybe I should take off the hoodie.
Take off the hoodie.
Go ahead.
You want
What
to?
the hell?
You want? Go ahead. Here. Let me get someone. You all right?
Yeah.
This is a great moment in internet history.
What?
All right. That is a warm hoodie.
Yeah. No, it's a thick hoodie. It's a company hoodie. We print our mission on the inside.
What? Oh, my
really?
God, the inside of the hoodie, everybody. Take a moment. What is it? Making the
world more open and connected.
Oh my God, it's like a secret
Cool.
cult. Look at that, making the world open and connected, stream, graph, platform, and this weird symbol in the middle that is probably for the Illuminati.
A lot of the stuff could be circumstantial, but I
No.
think you're right.
You can only have so much
Well, that's what I'm saying.
circumstantial
I
evidence.
think the argument for it is
Right.
the fact that it's so prevalent. It's not just prevalent. It's almost like you have to do it at some point in your career, or you fall off.
Well, I think you made a good point. Consider this: like, why? Like, yeah, if for it to be a fad, right? You have maybe Justin Bieber saw another artist do the OK
Right.
sign over his eye in 666, and then that's cool. I'm going to do it in my next photo shoot. In reality, like,
Fads change so quickly
and these
nowadays,
but these
too.
are covers of like important magazines, and they're being directed in the photography,
Very specific ways.
So there's someone directing. There's a photographer saying, "Hey, let's have you pose like this." It's an organized process. It's not like all of these celebrities
Everything
are coming
they do
up
is
with this
choreographed, like deeply. Like these are
why-
multi-million-dollar.
Yeah. So what the I guess the point is, like, if it was just a fad, it's obvious.
It would end after a while.
It would be like, oh, that was cute that he wanted to do that because he saw like Jay-Z
we
do
live in a
it.
world where fads change every 3 months.
Right. But we've had these.
And this has been going on for decades.
Yeah, case in point, I was just looking up, since this podcast is supposed to be about the Satanism in Hollywood and selling your soul, et cetera. I was looking a little bit into the Rat Pack because of Sammy Davis's famous association with being back in, or being involved in the Church of Satan, et cetera. And I saw this, I went way down the rabbit hole. I started looking at some of the stuff that you'd been talking about. It just naturally went into it. I was talking about Frank Sinatra and people in Hollywood, like switching genders, which was bizarre.
God, yes.
But it was Frank Sinatra, and there was very few photographs of him as a child, and one of the few is
We're
him
going
in
into this right now.
No,
It's just-
that's
look
how
away for a minute.
Hey, little fella. I'm talking about. I'm not going into that. I'm
Look
talking
away
about
for a minute.
Hey, little fella. That's so
talking
derogatory
about- sorry, that was-
and kind of
that was-
hilarious.
I'll take it.
It's better than big guy.
I'm
I say that a lot.
genetically
little
identical
fella.
to you.
No, I think little fella's way more derogatory than big guy.
Putting him in a little box so I can handle
Hey,
him
little
and
fella,
tell him.
settle down.
It's my cue that I am
It's
the
okay,
man.
though. I
and
want
I'm
you to
gonna
go there
handle
because
him.
that's what
we go.
we're.
No. This is where I'm going.
Just let him finish his thought.
This is where I'm going. The whole point was there are very few pictures of Frank Sinatra. I just happened to go down that rabbit hole when I was looking at Sammy Davis
It's a
Jr.
rabbit hole for sure.
Yeah, but what was interesting is he's I don't know how old he is, maybe 10 in this picture, and he's standing in a mirror and he's doing this.
Oh,
Or
shit.
this, I guess it's like
Who
this.
is that?
It's the OK666 symbol. It's not. I don't think it's over his eye. I think he's holding it right up to the side of his face, or the side of his head. But beyond that, like it's odd. It's a celebrity from at
Before he was famous.
But yeah, he was a kid,
Yeah.
and there were very few pictures of him as a kid. But his parents have a weird background. His mother was known as Hatpin Dolly. She was one of the early like really progressive feminists, but she made her, or she was a nurse. She was self-taught. That's not right. She basically. She was known for giving like abortions to Catholics, like providing that service for people.
All right. Okay.
Let's get back. Let's get back.
Can we get back?
Oh, fuck.
For a minute.
We're taking a break.
Things are going great over here.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back, guests. Listeners.
I'm loving it.
I have met people who claimed to be Satanists, who claimed to be involved with black magic. But as I said, I've certainly haven't been involved, and I warn all of you, never, never, never. you'll not only lose your mind, you lose your soul.
The Illuminati was just that organization, that name, that secret society that's controlling all of this, especially the moves that's being made in the music industry. How does a person come from having a little bit of talent to being a multi-millionaire overnight? You must know something.
So let me ask you this. What is happening in Hollywood that a guy that tough will be on the street waving a gun, screaming, they are trying to kill me? So what is happening in Hollywood? Nobody knows. The worst thing to call somebody is crazy, is dismissive. I don't understand this person, so they're crazy. That's bullshit. These people are not crazy, they're strong people. Maybe the environment is a little sick.
Some of us are against the Illuminati. We are against the Illuminati at our own detriment.
Whether it's easily defined or not easily defined, the order of the left-hand path, the following of this, the following of that. It is basically the worship of the force of evil. It is a fact. It does exist. It exists around us today, very definitely. Ask any priest, ask any member of the forces of law and order, and they will tell you that Satanism as such, it's there, and it has been for thousands of years.
Dude, it is insane. You have to admit how many celebrities go like this. Like,
Yeah.
What are you doing there when you say go like this?
Well, we're not recording. Are we back in the podcast?
Oh, we could be. I mean, I think
We can just slip on in anytime we want.
Okay, let's.
Slipping now.
And we're back.
And we're back. We've slipped back in.
So, let's jump back to the actual topic at hand, which is the celebrity culture mixed with occult and
Illuminati.
Luciferian propaganda,
Yes.
Illuminati, all these
Illuminati,
things.
Satanism.
the symbolism, I think is the best way to put it. Occult symbolism. That's celebrities and occult symbolism,
Right.
I think is a good way to put
Here's
it.
Kanye West, and he's wearing
Well, type in.
wearing all red, horse chain,
I could do
pyramid
it too.
rings, Eye of Providence rings.
Are we?
You could type in one celebrity and see how many times they're doing it. Like, I'll type in Justin Bieber right now. Justin Bieber.
Beber. I think it's French. I think it's Beber.
Google will know.
Illuminati hand signs.
Remember Beber? That's a good cartoon.
Babar. Babar? It's
That's the
Babar.
French version. Beber.
Babar. Babar the elephant, the friendly elephant. What was the plot of that show? Do you remember?
They were I think they
Babar?
were royalty.
They were. He was a
They were
prince.
he was a prince.
He was a prince elephant.
He seemed like a nice guy.
Yeah, he was. I liked him.
Anyway, I don't know why they just break it down, like because I've seen it everywhere. But give me a list and
Yeah,
give
it
me
would be
images
nice
with the
to
list.
just have someone break it
I
down.
mean, here is like a list with where
Justin
with
Bieber
wearing
was
fashion.
he was definitely a girl at one point.
Okay. Well, he is Miley Cyrus, right? Is that
Yeah,
the
they're
idea?
pretty much like opposites.
Opposites.
He was a cute
attract.
little boy kid. That's how I get
Paul
famous.
Abdul.
He's got a tattoo of the all-seeing eye on his arm.
Who does?
Justin Bieber.
Justin Bieber.
That's where his power is sourced from. That's why he's so strong.
He literally has a giant eye on his forearm.
Is his right bicep look bigger? Like, is it? Do you think it's giving
Like
him
he got
strength?
like satanic powers.
Yeah,
and now
like
it has
just
more
that one
muscle.
arm.
Maybe we're just wrong about everything.
I think some of these things absolutely were wrong about.
What was it Aristotle that said, "I know that I'm intelligent because I know that I know nothing"?
No, it was a Socrates, and he said, "All
I know is that I know nothing." Or
He
wise.
said, "A wise man, a fool thinks he is a wise man.
A wise man knows he is a fool.
Well,
Well, there's all different versions of it. I think they said it was Aristotle.
I think even if like whether or not you believe there's a nefarious like legitimate belief system they have or some kind of conspiracy, you have to admit, like anybody, if they know anything about symbolism, they could look at all of these artists and say like they're obviously doing it. You want to call it a fad or whatever you want. Like at some point you have to. The first step is admitting that there is
You
a
have a
problem.
problem.
And the problem is that they're all flashing these satanic and Illuminati symbols. They're wearing it as clothing all the time. So like there's a point where it's a fad and where it just becomes like obvious observation of like a message being put forth. And I'm the most skeptical, I think, but I think it's obvious to see.
I mean,
You
if
know?
you just do a Google
Like,
search,
what is
like
the point of
Those
like
with eyes to see.
what is the point of like,
covering your one eye,
covering your one eye or doing the OK symbol, which is
Well,
what
is
a
that-
666 thing.
666 over your eye.
And like you say,
well,
okay,
that's a double whammy.
all
Yeah,
right.
that's
And
a
even if
double
you
whammy.
don't want like
You got the all-seeing eye
listeners
and
out
the
there, even if
666.
you don't want to believe that this is like a satanic thing or whatever, that's fine. Or Illuminati, that's fine. But you have to
I
admit
think occult is a better way to
occult,
say it.
occult maybe is good. If you don't want to admit that it's an occult thing, you have to say like, well, it's strange. that, you know,
Well,
you've got
changed.
5 or 6 super pop stars doing the
It's
symbol.
more than
and
5 or 6,
I'm just,
bud.
yeah, I'm
Bud.
okay.
Sorry. That was
You
that was
dummy.
condescending. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'm not your enemy here.
I
I'm
know.
on your side.
But when you say 5 or 6, it's more like
I'm
hundreds.
underestimating because if you say hundreds of
true.
famous people,
It literally is
how
true.
many do we have? 100 pop stars?
I like if I were to list them out, it would probably be over 100.
right, but I'm saying
like
it's-
of the most famous people.
All right. Well,
Yeah, I would say
maybe you're
that's-
right.
maybe we should do a list.
It's anecdotal, but I agree with John.
100. Okay. I'm saying I'm trying to speak on the lower realm because even if it's 5,
The layman.
yeah, well, yeah, even if it's 5 stars,
Okay.
that's a big deal.
Right.
If they're
If
all
they can-
doing the same thing,
over long
yeah.
periods
So
of
I'm
time.
saying let's start from the lower point.
Okay.
You don't have to jump to 100. There's 100 of them.
But there is.
Sure.
I'm dead serious. I
Okay.
could literally
There
go
are.
down
I don't think I
this
know 100 pop stars that are alive today.
over a 10-year period of, or
Okay.
even 15-year period.
Well, then consider
Or
all,
100,
and
yeah.
then consider all of the people that would just jump on the bandwagon. And not to say that there's not it's not directed at the top, but then you have all the people that are copycatting because it's cool. Like
Right.
all
Well,
the
that's the
up-and-coming
argument,
pop stars
right?
want to
Fair
get
enough
into
argument.
That's
Fair
the argument.
enough
Like
argument.
somebody made,
But usually this
Illuminati
is-
symbol was fashionable, so then everybody starts making.
But why
this-
does it last so long when it's not?
Right, I agree.
It doesn't
That-
make any
that's what I'm
sense
saying. I
to
think that
continue
there's-
trends. Like, again, we're
How-
going
why
back
isn't it,
to...
yeah, right. Why has it not died off in the past 15, 20 years?
Yeah, like
that's the question.
Clothes going out of fashion every 3 years, but
Yeah.
these symbols remain over generations. Like, it doesn't make any sense that these would, unless there's a tie into the occult, which
Right.
is long standing.
And I agree. And all I was trying to say right there was and when I said 5 or 6, all I was saying was
I know what you're saying.
if you want to think that that none of this is going on at all,
Then you
like,
wouldn't
they
be
don't-
listening to this podcast,
That they
but-
don't flash any symbols. But I mean, somebody might be. But what I'm saying is, then everybody, like all of these stars who are doing these hand signs, they all have an itch at the same spot, and for some reason contort their hand to make inverted triangle over their head. With, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's not a gesture. It's not like I got an itch here or I got a.
Well,
they're
no, I
doing
mean,
a symbol.
it's specific.
They're doing
Well, of
they're doing a
course.
hand sign that's obvious, and I think it's admitted. I think even celebrities like
I don't think it's
David Blaine-
admitted. This
David
is the
Blaine
thing. I
admit-
don't think it's an admitted thing where they go, yeah, it's an Illuminati's hand sign.
Oh no, it has been at least one time.
Well,
I've
I'm
seen
sure-
recently. David Blaine. What was that interview?
Oh,
the magician.
sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's for
You're fine.
protection.
Yeah, well, he does it real fast.
He has
He,
the-
he
he has-
does this. He does this. Covers his eye.
No, he doesn't cover his eye.
What does he do?
He his hand has a
Oh, sorry. His hand has
an eye in the middle.
yeah.
His hand has an eye in the middle, and the guy's creeped out who's doing the interview, or he just doesn't know how to take
late
Dave
night
Blaine.
show, I
Because Dave
forget
Blaine's
who
a
it was.
creepy guy.
It was either
no, it was some British show. It wasn't like a
okay.
But anyways, he's like what is this you're doing? What is this dark thing? And then he flashes.
Could we play that clip?
Flashes. Yeah, we'll interject it. I'm sure.
play it
He
here.
pulls his hand up, and it's an eye, and it shows
I just saw a picture of Michael Jackson doing it.
So he pulls his hand up, and there's an eye in the middle, like the kid from The Gate who has that eye growing because of the old gods coming through, which is
That's
a
pretty
weird fucking
interesting.
connection.
Yeah, I like that.
Right? We can go dive into Alister Crowley, and that was his symbol. That's so weird to think about that.
Here's
now.
this-
But anyways, so yeah, well, you brought up David Blaine, so he brings up. Yeah, why don't you play the clip?
Yeah, I'll play the
But
clip.
let's roll tape.
Let's roll tape. And here's the clip real quick. And I mean, we'll have to explain it because you won't be able to see his hand when he throws it up. But the interviewer asks like, "Oh, what's that about?" And he explains.
Right.
That's why I have this tattoo of an eye, like that typical eye.
For
All right, here you go.
protection.
Dark Magician.
It's for protection.
David Blaine.
Yeah, here we go.
Yes, that's what I was saying. Of course, you're famous in this country as well for appearing in a car advert, doing tricks as well. Car tricks. Excellent. Is
He's
it a
just
trick to
staring at him
talk?
blankly.
Growing up, did you see yourself as different in any way?
How long is this interview?
Think about it that way. What do we get with you? Are you an illusionist? Are you a trickster? What is it? Are you a
like his voice.
stuntman? What are you? How would you describe yourself?
I'm just a showman.
Yeah?
Good Lord.
Listen, watch this.
Is this part of the show? This sort
He's
of
not possessed by the devil.
moody persona and the stare and the eyes and all that sort of thing? That's just you. The eye in the hand.
He just flashed.
Listen.
What is that?
Yeah,
What is the eye in the hand? Let's see that again.
It's on his hand.
Explains to the
Protection.
audience.
What does that mean?
Protection from death.
Oh.
Protection from death.
And is it important to you to outdo the greats like Houdini and whatever, to be more famous and more immortal than someone like Houdini?
I just like doing what I do.
That's what I'd say.
That guy's totally normal. Jesus Christ. Sorry, God, but that...
Sorry, God, but
I mean, people could argue like he's just putting on a mysterious air or whatever, but
which of course he
looks like he's possessed
showman.
by the devil.
Yeah.
When he talks.
I'm a showman.
Dude, I'm just looking at like I can scroll down right here for the audience listening. If you type in Illuminati hand gesture, like
are those the keywords? You should give it that. Like, let them know what the keywords are.
Okay,
so
well, exactly.
They can see what you're seeing right now.
Well, I specifically typed in Justin Bieber all-seeing eye, but it pulls up like hundreds of celebrities all doing the exact same thing. I can Ariana Grande, Justin Bieber, Lady Gaga, Beyonce, Selena Gomez. Who else we got here? Ariana Grande, Michael Jackson, Eminem,
Keisha, Kelsey Grammer.
Well, I just typed in Justin Bieber too. So like, I mean, if you type in other, but it's like again,
I mean, you could type in celebrities.
But listen to this
Illuminati
though. I have one from Justin Bieber when he was a child. Like he literally was like.
Okay. Well, that's not surprising because I like where I
wrote. He has. He's probably like 13 in this picture, and he has
the 666 over the eye.
No, he has glasses on where one side is blurred out. So he has
it's blurred out.
Well, he has glasses on, and one side is covered by a piece of paper.
Oh, the piece of paper. Well, that was like left eye.
Yeah,
she had
it's the
either
left eye thing, but he's probably no more than 12 years old in this picture.
Right. I mean,
so again, it goes back to
wasn't that before he was even picked up? Like that was before he became.
Well, that's a lot of these people start super young. Like
I get that, but like Justin Bieber's story is pretty well known, right? Like he became a celebrity on YouTube first,
just so you can see.
Oh, that's definitely okay. He's got glasses. One side is painted out.
That was after he was picked up by Hollywood.
Yeah,
so
but he's still like compared to how old he is now. I mean, that was when he was just starting out.
Kid.
I mean, so that's what I'm saying.
YouTube.
This goes on for a long period of time.
Yeah.
This isn't just like a trend. This is, or a fad, I guess is the way to say it. This is not something that goes in and out of fashion.
Do we think that this is like, it's a sign of initiation initially, and then it becomes a sign of like loyalty to the left-hand path, as I think is a Alister Crowley term, or
it is weird. Like, so how does that go down? You're like, okay, so we're gonna make you. I mean, is it like the photographers that are like, okay, we're gonna put this on you right now, or like?
Well, I mean, someone's got to be there in the room when they're taking pictures.
Yeah,
right?
he's not coming up with this himself when he's just starting out.
No,
unless his family is involved.
Well, and a lot of times it starts with the family, and a lot of these people that become uber famous are people that were born into Hollywood, and they were.
At a young age,
pimped out in a sense.
Pimped out, yeah, absolutely.
Well, here's the interesting thing, because like, one of the things we were looking up.
Not all of them, but
we're all gonna die after this episode. By the way, we're gonna get hunted down.
Don't talk about Sony.
We're not. There's a lot of people still talking about it.
So, but here's the interesting thing: is like looking up like historical references to like making pacts with the devil.
Ghosts after this one though.
Making pacts with the devil.
Ghost stories
in
next
the past.
Time,
like the difference. Like obviously, like now, like it's not so like cut and dry. Like Katy Perry made a pact with the devil and she sings about it in her. There's so much more symbolism that goes on.
Well, it's subtle. I mean, that's the whole point of a cult.
But what I'm saying is, it's an interesting evolution. They like the idea of making a pact with the devil to become rich and famous and to become musically gifted. Like that's been going for centuries.
Why don't you tell that story?
Let's go back to the history of it, Chris, because there's more history that's interesting.
I can ramble off some things.
Why don't you ramble some stuff off?
Okay, one of the most prominent stories.
Well, let's set this up, because what's interesting is we're talking about everything going on in pop culture
modern
and Hollywood,
stuff,
modern,
right?
But there's a whole, like, I don't even know how far back this would go. What's the earliest one you've come across where
the earliest one
people considered someone selling their soul for the devil?
I mean, they go back. It goes back to like the 15th century. I think the most interesting one is
15th century. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce his name exactly. No, Vlad Dracul was before 15th century. I'm pretty sure it was. But
I have no idea.
Ages.
Wasn't 1400s
Nicola Paganini is the guy.
Oh, Paganini,
who no one's familiar with probably, but he was a violinist.
Was he a composer or just he was a violinist?
He was a violinist. He was a composer. Everything. Like he started when he was super young. I think 5 years old. He started playing, but like at 23, he was like world renowned, well known. People would go to his concerts and accuse him of witchcraft. Because they would see him perform, and they said as they watched him, they would feel almost like this intense supernatural effect that would occur. And like you can chalk it up to like they said, first of all, this is known, he had like abnormally long fingers. He looked creepy. He was gaunt. And he was said to be able to play in a supernatural way. And of course you can like say like he was just so good. He was just so good that it was like just people that time period.
But were there any other connections?
They were looking for witches everywhere.
But with him, other than people said he was so good, he must have made a deal with the devil, or were there other connections? Like, was he involved in any groups? Did he say anything about?
He was just, he wrote a song called Witch's Dance. I think that was one of the reasons why it continued to like plug him into this peg of being into the occult or selling his soul. And he wrote that song, and it became so prevalent, like this idea, like people would leave the concerts because it seemed so supernatural when he would play. And then it got so bad, and like right or wrong, I mean, it could be that it was just like he just had a strange thing where he had these magically long fingers that could play these things that were impossible today to play.
Unless you have long fingers.
Yeah, but even today, like even to today's standards, it was almost impossible to recreate what he could do then. But the rumors persisted, and even if it wasn't true, it's interesting in historical perspective that he was denied a Catholic burial after his death.
What? Just because of his ability to play?
So what was the next guy? Daniel Johnson?
Yeah, he's Robert Johnson.
Oh, it was Robert?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, talk a little bit about
Robert
him.
Johnson was
aka Robbie J.
Robert Johnson was he's kind of known as the
He's the Crossroads.
The Crossroads guy. Yeah, he's the father of modern blues and the father of rock and roll in general. He was a guy, and like we should play some clips, but he was a guy who couldn't play anything well, was an annoyance and a nuisance to other players in the area when he would show up at clubs to play, and they called it a racket when he would play, and like audience members would get pissed.
What year was this? Like what time frame?
Like the 1920s. And then he left for 6 or 8 months, came back, and all of a sudden was an incredible guitar player. He was
like a
master
musician.
Master. Like you could play him a song and he would immediately be able to play it by memory.
Within
the
6
entire
months.
thing. Within 6 to 8 months, like he went from like he went from like someone who like the greats that he played with, or even like the guys that were like mediocre would say, this guy has no skill, no ability.
That's pretty much humanly impossible.
So he came back
to 8 months. Yeah,
came back and was a virtuoso.
That's what it sounds like.
And almost like an idiot savant. And it wasn't, if he could just pick up.
Yeah, one of the guys, I forget, and we can look it up, but one of the guys even said like it was like he had a computer in his brain. Of course, this guy is quoting him like close to death because computers have been invented, but he was like, it was like this guy could hit a button and like just play, like he would hear something and hit a button and he would just play it automatically and it would be exactly correct. Coming from a guy who like couldn't play anything well, was just playing awful music that wasn't even music. Right. Yeah, and I think what also increases the folklore of him being someone who sold their soul to the devil was the fact that he had a song about selling his soul to the devil in that time period where he disappeared, the Crossroads song. And we should drop in a clip here where a guy talks about his ability that came from seemingly nowhere to being the most incredible musician he's ever
just
heard.
Let him finish. Sorry.
Yeah. So from going from a nuisance on the stage that would annoy everyone in the audience and everybody else who played that night, and he'd be like, "Let me play a lick or two," and they'd be like, "Get out of here. We know what you're going to do." He comes in after 6 or 8 months and he says, "Let me play a lick or two," and they're like, "Go ahead." Plays it. Incredible, blows everybody out of the water, and then from then on rewrites musical history, creates rock and roll, creates modern blues, creates these incredible songs in which he has songs about selling his soul to the devil on the Crossroads. And there's other stories. Like there's another guy by the same name. His name was I think Thomas Johnson or something very close to that, who in the same time period, and obviously he could have been building off of Robert's fame as the idea maybe, but also sold his soul on the same crossroads in Mississippi.
Oh, the same crossroads. Yeah.
But
I think people still make that
clip.
People still make that pilgrimage.
Yeah.
The Crossroads to sell the soul.
That's an important part of the.
Anyway,
anyway, and Bob Dylan. I mean, Bob Dylan's a good one.
What? What's an important part?
I don't know.
Bob Dylan's a good one. He's one that's an interesting one. That's a video actually we should play right now. But he talks about and this is arguable because he talks about the commander in chief, like
the president.
No, the commander in chief of this world and the other world. Like he made it. He said he made a deal.
You're talking about Satan?
Well,
Zeus?
that's the argument. Like you could say, was it the devil? Was it some sort of ancient entity, or was it God? Like we don't really know. But the argument is like, of course, he gets lumped into the.
What was the language he used? You said the commander in chief
I had
of
the
this
exact
world
quotes
and
here
the
somewhere.
next.
The commander in chief. That's freaky. But
Yeah,
the fact that we call
play
it
the-
our president too.
Yeah, we'll play the
commander-in-chief.
clip. But this was his quote. Well, we can play the clip because it's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Actually, I have the clip saved. But this is a. I'll read it right now for the sake of this. The interviewer says, "Why are you still out here?" And Dylan says, "It goes back to that destiny thing. I made a bargain with it, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end." The interviewer says, "What was your bargain?" And Dylan says, "To get where I am now." And then the interviewer says, "Should I ask who you made the bargain with?" And Dylan says, "With the commander, the chief commander." And the interviewer says, "On this earth?" Dylan says, "In this earth and in the world we can't see."
Oh,
interesting. I mean, you could say that's
it's
you
interesting
could say
if
he's
you-
talking about fate
and if you
or
ma-
God.
He
or,
actually, there's a quote from him. There's a clip from him where he actually says he sold his soul to the devil to get where he is.
I think I've heard that. But
like-
what's interesting too is that language, the commander of this world. What is it?
Biblically?
Biblically,
biblically it's,
is Lucifer or Satan is given
Control
reign
over here.
given reign of the earth. Like so, commander of this world. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is
So
fascinating.
interesting word usage.
Yeah, commander in chief, especially since the fact that that's what we call our president.
Well, does he say commander in chief or he says commander?
This is I think the chief commander is what
the
he says.
chief commander.
But
it's
it's
the same kind of thing.
But it's interesting, and here's like
chief
here's
commander.
something
Donald
else.
Trump?
Something else I watched recently with Bob Dylan, Eric Clapton actually singing Johnson's song about selling his soul at the crossroads. They did as like an anniversary show. It was Clapton and Dylan together singing those lyrics. I mean, but that's obviously, you can obviously say anybody who's a big name in rock and roll would cover the guy who started rock and roll and like one of his biggest hits. So
right.
that's
I
an
mean,
argument
it's
for
such a
that,
legendary situation.
We'll take a break and we'll come back.
I sold my soul to the devil. I know it's a crappy deal. At least it came with a few toys like a Happy Meal.
What was going on in my life at 15, and that's how I got introduced to the music industry. I swear I wanted to be like the Amy Grant of music. Yeah. But it didn't work out, and so I sold my soul to the devil.
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I made a bargain with it, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And on this earth, and then in the world we can't see.
We can't.
I had a thought when I was outside. I wanted to ask a question specifically about we were talking about before about the Illuminati and Satanism
Bringing
or
it
the
back.
occult in the music industry.
Bringing
it back a little bit. I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts are. Okay, so like I think we can safely say that this is
Tony
obviously
Mottola is the devil.
at least it's obviously at least like a trend.
MJ.
At the least a trend that's gone on for a strange amount of time when it comes to the symbolism in the music industry and in Hollywood and flashing these quote unquote Illuminati symbols and wearing the clothing of the all-seeing eye, the hand over the face, the upside down OK sign thing or whatever. That's just a strange
666.
thing to do unless it means something. Come on. It's pretty obvious. So I guess my question is, so you've got
just a fad,
everybody
man.
from Justin Bieber
Trend
to
for 20 years.
Justin Bieber to Jay-Z to Mariah Carey to Beyonce
Gaga.
to Lady Gaga,
Paul McCartney,
K Money San Ha. You got all these people doing
All
this.
the most famous people in the world.
Yeah. Okay. So the question is, my question I'm posing to you is, do you think? Okay, I feel like the options are there is some sort of occult movement going on in Hollywood that is in the open but not spoken about openly, but it's obviously in the open. is this something that all the artists are involved in? We talk about like music videos like Katy Perry, where this is so prevalent, or Miley Cyrus.
Do the artists themselves know, or
even
is it
Taylor
just
Swift? There's an argument there in certain degrees.
I just don't know how you, unless they're part of an MK Ultra program.
But then here's the question: is it people who are? Does it get the people who are like flashing the signs, like with their hands? Obviously, they're wearing the clothing.
Well, maybe they don't even know though.
But that's what I'm saying.
That's what we're saying. These people are like controllers on some.
So that's my question. Is like, I guess the options are everybody, all the artists are involved in this. They know what's going on, or is it the producers who are involved in producing the videos, who are in charge of the record labels, who are orchestrating the stage decor? Like, are there people at the top
who's
who are
pushing the
who are
image,
pushing
right?
this as like a subconscious
It's a great question.
message, or are all the musicians, or have all the musicians like knowingly sold their soul and are pumping this out intentionally, or is it like a production level?
Could it be a mix?
Right, I think it's a mix. I think
I want your opinion.
Like you get a Britney Spears breakdown, where she shaves her head
and talks about handlers.
Yeah. Like, is there a point where they reach? But this goes into MK Ultra type stuff. Like, this is like it goes back to when they're young. Like maybe there is like some sort of
and now we know MK Ultra is
very young takeover of these people, and there's MK Ultra experiments, and
we know that
they get to a certain point.
Disney.
And MK Ultra.
Disney.
Now we know for a fact MK Ultra is an admitted project. It wasn't for years. Now recently,
no, it's Netflix documentary.
Break down MK Ultra real quick though.
MK Ultra
breakdown.
MK Ultra was a program to see if we could use hallucinogenic drugs and
trauma-based mind control.
Yeah, trauma-based mind control to basically break down someone's personality and rebuild it the way we want to. And the idea was to fracture personality, so you could basically create a schizophrenic. And this is something that has recently been admitted. This was a CIA op that was going on for a long time that they say they stopped doing.
I think it was admitted a long time ago, but now it's becoming popular culture.
Right.
After Stranger Things.
But this is an argument I've heard too, is like the idea that like they were able to actually do this to people and it was successful, but then they stopped, is kind of ridiculous.
Well, it's kind of like
especially now when you have tools like Facebook, which is the best like mind control experiment
facial recognition.
Ever. So you're going to tell me that the CIA
they just gave up.
They just gave up, and even though they had success, they decided to give up. And now that they have the tentacles to spread out into everybody's home in the world,
we're done.
Now they're not doing it. Like,
look at the Pentagon study that came out with they looked at these crafts back in 2012. This project.
Jump back to the first episode.
And they found these insanely anomalous physical objects that we do not understand. They were just like, we spent $20 million on the entire budget of whatever black projects is going, but it's not interesting.
Right, which is, and the argument there is like,
who believes that?
Right, and the argument is that like $20 million is a drop in the bucket when it comes to, which is accurate,
we found things that can
true.
break the physical barrier of what we know is possible in speed, but we're afraid of Russia interfering with Facebook, but we're not afraid of objects that move faster than any scientific thing that we understand.
Measure,
right.
But they shut down the program after 90
degree turns.
Ridiculous.
Like they can stop after going hundreds, possibly
People
thousands of
believe
miles an
this.
hour.
This
and
is what we're being
They can
told.
stop on a dime and go in a different direction. It's something that's physically impossible to our physics.
Yeah.
Yet, like this is
$21 million.
And this is something that's admitted by
spend
Pentagon observation.
trillions of dollars in a Iraq war.
But how is if this is admitted on Pentagon observation, how is this not a talking point? So the Pentagon admits that these things have taken place and that we witness these things, and then
expertly trained pilots that have
and
witnessed these things.
One of the most intriguing aspects is the fact that in that article they talk about warehouses that we have where we have recovered like things that have been left behind.
Warehouse 13, right?
No, that's a TV show. That's a good TV show.
I thought that was a documentary series.
No, in that article, that New York Times article, they're talking about this Pentagon program. There were two warehouses that were holding
to analyze the ores or whatever.
Analyze things that were left behind by these crafts. So what does that mean? And why do they need two warehouses to store this stuff? That means there's a lot of stuff that they found. Was there a follow-up on that article? Was there a follow-up on the fact that they admitted that they have warehouses full of things from unexplainable craft? Where did that go? That was the most intriguing part of that article. Has there been a follow-up on that? We should look that up.
Well, if we're going to go, to bring it back into the topic of the day.
Yeah, bring it back.
Sorry. Aliens or demons?
Aliens or demons. Well, if we look,
everybody has an aunt that believes that. I think
Aunt Pam did tell me that once, and I was like, "You're silly. I have a velvet black and white poster
Maybe
of an
some
alien."
aliens are demons, but I think there's some good ones out there.
Well, I mean, I think the idea,
Just like the good and the bad.
yeah, the positive, negative. I remember that conversation. We could edit this out if you want to.
We'll just keep going.
Okay, I remember it was Christmas. I remember Aunt Pam was visiting, Aunt Pamela, and
Hi, Pammy.
she was saying that we were talking about. Oh, I got a glow in the dark, or no, it was a blacklight poster of an alien. It was my prized possession at that time. I think it was 6th grade.
That's good.
It was awesome, and she told us that aliens were demons, and I was like, "That's ridiculous. They're just otherworldly creatures from outer space that are coming to visit us." Which, of course,
what grade was this?
Like 6th grade.
Okay.
And I had no, I know, who knows where they come from. I guess that's the thing. Like other than like abductees.
We're demons.
We're demons. Oh, that was a Velcro song, wasn't it?
It is.
But anyway, so I that always stuck with me as like, what a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
Like they're where is that in the Bible? Oh, because they're not referenced in the Bible. They must be demons, or I don't know where she got that at the time.
Nephilim.
But what's bizarre is like after looking into the occult and the history of NASA and the connections with Alister Crowley and like I mentioned this in the first podcast, but like Alister Crowley's first contact with a being from the old gods, or his name was Lamb, was the being he contacted, and he drew a picture of Lamb, this old god, this demon, or whatever you want to call him.
This is in the Bible?
This is Alister Crowley.
Oh, sorry. I'm gone.
This is the Bible of Alister Crowley, but he contacted this demon, where he got a lot of his information, and I think he may have even dictated a book using knowledge from Lamb.
Talked about this in the last episode.
Yeah, but
John was like, "Wait, so there was a guy who believed in the devil who drew a picture of an alien,
right?" But my point was, it was in the early 1900s, and he drew a picture.
Right, it was before the grades.
I'm sure
were like
Pam was privy to all this information.
Yeah, I'm sure not. But that's what was so weird, is because Aunt Pam said, the aliens
I think
are
that was
demons.
her understanding of just anything outside of her understanding.
Like right. If it's not in the Bible, maybe it's evil. But if you look up a picture, if you Google Alister Crowley Lamb or Alister Crowley contacted demon or god or whatever, it looks like a alien gray, like way before Roswell. This was like decades before Roswell, before we had any alleged abductions or sightings. I just think that's interesting, especially considering how what an important figure Alister Crowley is, and how it's influenced like popular culture and rock and roll and media. Like, Austin, Texas, he's on the side of the university library.
What?
Yeah, University of Austin. Alister Crowley. Yeah, he's.
Good
I think his
Lord,
books,
dude.
His books
the
are
University of Texas is a pretty like experimental as far as science and technology.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider that like Hadron Collider type of, experimentation. Like they're on the verge.
Like scientifically, or do you mean just like
what they're into?
Studies.
Yeah, the studies. It's like they're pushing it seems like they're trying to push the boundaries of like
our physical world.
Well, that and also morality at the same time, like gene splicing and.
Are they doing that at UT?
I can't say for sure.
That's a pretty common.
Is that why their football team's so good?
Yeah, they're actually terrible.
Are they?
They're horrible.
Longhorns?
Oh, I thought Longhorns were like.
They used to be good,
Longhorns.
but the last like 5 or 6 years they've been like the Browns.
Oh, poor Browns.
Well, it's interesting how all these,
but they're very
that way.
known for like some seriously profound, like pushing the boundaries of science and technology.
Yeah.
So I'm stretching what I think, but
they have a lot of money too.
Yeah,
right.
They have a lot of money, and they're pushing the boundaries of what is science, technology, and biology. And if there's Alister Crowley involved, I think
that's what's
the
bizarre.
morality part is probably missing.
Well, that's what's interesting is the book, Alister Crowley, I think the Book of the Law is stored at the University of Texas Library. I think that's where it is, or one of his books at least is.
Oh, I thought you said there's a painting on the wall.
Well, no, they have they have like pictures of important people like outside of the University of Texas,
And
or at least
he's
they
one of
did.
them?
Yeah, he was a big picture of Alister Crowley because he's an icon. He's even listed like as an icon.
He's
popular
definitely
culture.
not someone you'd want to like.
No, but he's influenced so many people.
Do what thou wilt.
Do what thou wilt. Like people have been so influenced by it in popular culture
Yeah,
and media.
no,
Important
they're-
people,
right? Yeah,
admittedly. So he
we could
is
do a whole
like,
episode on him. I'm sure.
I would love to. We got one of those books over there. We should crack open.
do.
below the dust.
I mean,
off.
it is fascinating, and I like understand why people could be drawn towards that philosophy if you have no.
Well, it's a logical kind of philosophy, which is
Well,
what's
it's
so weird about it.
logical,
Well,
but
to a
there's
degree,
no
there's,
morality based. Well, especially the way we grew up, like where you take everything into consideration. You take people's feelings and the
It's
environment.
The empathy, it's the opposite of that.
Do without wilt is the opposite of that.
Right, and the whole point is like to reach
self-indulgence.
Self-indulgence and finding the limits of what is possible
regardless
with
of other
human
people's
beings,
experience.
which includes raping children and whatever you can find to.
Well, yeah, that would be alleged. I don't think that there was any.
With Alister Crowley?
Well, yeah, I don't think he's. Yeah, and this is kind of in my mind is a gray area. Like I know that his whole movement of basically like penetrating the boundaries of your own psyche and your own inhibitions was to do the things most abhorrent to you and to your psyche in order to traumatize yourself and break through.
I think that probably includes.
Of course, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I don't think any of his writings actually said like rape children, but I think the idea was like
think that
obviously
can be
sodomy.
implied,
Sodomy was definitely one of them.
Right.
But it seems such on a low scale compared to, like if you're going to like break through all of your morality and all of your principles to like totally rearrange your spirit and your consciousness, sodomy doesn't seem like it might do the trick. I feel like
I've sodomized women.
Okay. Well, I mean, the point.
All right.
But
Well, have you?
Was it Alister Crowley?
You've never put in the butt?
I'm not opposed to it. I was never. It wasn't something I ever sought out.
Let's say a willing woman
there
willing
was
to
one
be
moment
part of that.
She fell asleep, and
but
I was
that's
like, I'm
not
gonna do that.
rearranging my psychology.
Obviously, I agree with you.
That's what I mean.
What I'm saying is,
it's just funny the way you said it.
He's talking about
I've sodomized
by
women.
sodomy. I meant
willing women.
I meant like
dark.
so.
Yeah,
I meant so.
This has got to get cut out.
Yeah, it's sodomy.
We're keeping this. This is for the
Sodomy
Christmas
is just
episode.
butthole, right?
A heterosexual man having sex with another man in the butthole, and that definition of sodomy, doing things that disturb you, and
you're saying if you're straight.
Yeah, I'm saying things that go against the grain of your psyche, the things
the edge of what you think is morally okay,
or what you just feel compelled. If you feel repulsed by it, do it. You break through that barrier and you become a god.
We can extend that to a very logical end,
right? And that's the idea:
murdering people,
eat a poopy turd,
sacrificing things,
right? But the idea is
eat a poopy turd. That's I'm sure what was mostly going on.
But you do things
pretty repulsive.
But you do things that are abhorrent to you.
Vote for Hillary.
You look at the idea of what is acceptable to you in your own mind, and then you break through that, and that is what gives you godhood.
But there's always going to be the next level of that with these people.
Exactly. Yeah, right. But what I'm saying is that's where you start. Like you.
Yeah, you start there, but it doesn't say like once you do the first one,
of course you don't
end.
No.
So you can logically extend it to the most darkest places that humans can go.
And that's
what if for Alister Crowley?
Matt Lauer. You're a celebrity and you got all everything given to you.
What if Alister Crowley, like what time period was Alister Crowley doing this stuff, like 1920s, 1930s?
Early 1900s.
So what if the deepest,
late 1800s?
What if the deepest, darkest like repulsion you could do to be repulsed and to get that one up on God? What if that was only like just doing someone in the butt? What if that was like the limits? Like what if like everything else? It was so puritanical back then that like what if the limit was anal sex? And
what about
I don't know,
cutting a baby's head off?
Somehow that would be.
But I'm being honest. Like this is where I imagine where this leads. Like this is
the darkest. Well, but like, and I mentioned Matt Lauer earlier, but in reality,
that's not.
But
he's not a.
No, but I'm sure. But I'm sure that guy.
Gross.
I'm sure that guy who allegedly like locked people in his office after they walked in.
Pretty disturbing.
But
I think
didn't start there. That's my point. Is like
right,
you grow.
But I don't think he was involved in like.
No, I just mean like celebrity power. You get Mom,
I love
eventually you get bored. Right, that's the idea. You get bored of what you're doing,
especially when you start down the road of like, let's push it as far as we can go.
If your goal is to break through the boundaries, like
you're gonna do like murderers, like they get excited about it. Like you start small, you kill an animal, and then you get excited about it, and then you go like you inevitably keep doing, and you become Jeffrey Dahmer. You start eating them.
Don't you think this must be like on some level? Like I think about like you hear the
It's too bad that we're not going to be able to release this part.
This would be a plus. This is the reptilians we'll be talking about.
We might be able to pitch some of it.
Yeah, I'm going to the dark.
All right. That will be edited. No way. We're keeping it. Transparency and broadcasting is our motto. Okay, Chris, go ahead.
No, that's all right.
So I was thinking like what I had said earlier about, the disgustingness of the people that can push to the boundaries.
Right.
and
not being satisfied with
and I was thinking, I was projecting a little bit about, you know, and then how it creates an excitement in someone, and then you get to a certain point and you just keep pushing it, and when there's no morality edge, but it creates this excitement in you, like, you know, people that get excited about murder and things like that, and when there's no limits and you know, like anything else, like you get to a tolerance level, and like there is literally no limit. You're gonna perverse it as far as it can go,
right?
And it's not gonna stop. It's like once you go down that rabbit hole of creating the most perverse, disturbing thing you can imagine, and especially when
like, how do you go back after that?
And you get into the occult ritual of like you're believing that you're
actually
dealing
doing
with
something
gods
that's going to give you like
blood
powers.
sacrifices, drinking blood.
Yeah.
Like it creates this intense excitement and this intense
and loss of empathy for human beings.
Yeah,
like think about like people
completely disconnected.
Even like this isn't totally related in a sense, but like PTSD, people that like have to kill people in war overseas, and they lose a feeling of realness.
Well, this happens with even like EMS people. Like people that deal with EMS things. Like I've heard like people that deal with this. Like I know someone that is in a relationship with someone that deals with intense things and awesome all the time, and they joke about it.
You have to, right? Like it's a coping mechanism.
It becomes like
you see it so much.
You see it so much.
Homicide detectives the same way. Like you make jokes like
about
around the body.
Yeah,
it's that's how you cope with it.
But that's
fucked
up.
It's fucked up, but
and that's people that just are trying to help people. What about the people
other side where you push past that to gain power?
I think there's a difference there. I think one's a coping mechanism. One is like I want to try to push my morality.
There is a total difference. I'm not comparing them, but I'm saying like what happens to the brain when you're exposed to trauma.
Right, it adapts.
In both cases, you create like a boundary to where you can keep...
You disassociate.
You disassociate, and you can keep acting in a way that isn't affected by that trauma.
Your brain in general, like whenever you do something over and over and over again, repetition, your brain makes it a comfortable way to experience that regularly. So that becomes the norm.
Yeah.
You know, like even, and this is a very like innocuous example, but like piano tuning. Like studies have been done.
Fairly
innocuous. Fairly innocuous.
But like unless you're an occult piano tuner.
If you listen to...
Tuning to the resonance of the devil.
But if you do that regularly, you're not only does your brain, the physical look of your brain changes because the oral part of your brain actually increases in mass because you're doing that all the time. But also, like I've noticed personally, like my ears will literally move like a dog's ears. Like if I'm tuning at someone's house and then like a baby's up on a step or something and she like hits a toy or something, my ear will physically flick to the side, like I'll feel it move away.
Try to catch the sound.
Yeah, it's trippy. It feels like I'm a dog when that happens because I'm so
because it's
focused
been trained.
in. Yeah, and I think I mean that's a little off the topic, but it's that idea of like your brain adjusts to what you're used to. Like you get used to like doing crazy
yourself,
shit.
Basically,
yeah, you get used to you're living a life where you're around people who are doing crazy immoral shit all the time and grow and like
to push yourself to
not
new
just
boundaries.
immoral that's like socially like what was acceptable, like America, free America compared to puritanical America, which you know arguably better or worse, but like immoral shit like hurting someone else.
Immoral,
like that's immoral. Hurting anyone else. I don't give a shit like what you want to do, like in your private life and whatever, you know, whatever drugs, whatever sexual acts you want to do, as long as you're not hurting someone else, as long as it's consensual is cool. Like but you start doing some crazy shit and you start when your high becomes hurting other people and the loss of empathy with other people, that to me is immoral.
And the
has nothing to do with like what your practices are.
The weird thing is though, I do feel like on some level the human beings are like capable of like learning either or. Like I do feel like
left hand, right hand path.
Like on some level we are, I don't want to say a blank slate, but like we're open to like whatever stimulus comes our way. And the people can overcome that stuff obviously, but if you're in an environment that like perfect example is like inner city violence, you know, like communities that you grow up in a community that is just violence is the norm.
Like Jackson, Ohio, kind of like that.
Exactly.
Village.
But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you know, where it's just people get used to murdering each other And that's just the way of life.
Right,
And
yeah,
it becomes that's normality for people. And that's like a mild version compared to people that are in the occult where they're pushing their boundaries on purpose to see
because they think there's going to be a benefit.
Well,
like
they
some
overcome,
supernatural benefit.
well, and there probably is on some level. When you can push past every ounce of compassion and
human
empathy for
decency,
you can walk over anything. I mean, I think there's tremendous karmic consequences for something like that.
Well, that's if you look at the
but you may gain a certain amount of royal status in this lifetime.
Oh, yeah, and the ability to get things done that you could never get done before if you can trample over anybody and you don't feel any
consequences.
So absolutely, but you're right. I think the one
the
thing we can all agree
will
on
stomp
is
on you at
that's
some
a
point.
fucked up way to live because you're gonna get fucked in the ass.
And we're talking about
by karma.
We're talking about occult in Hollywood. We started off using the term Satanism in Hollywood. If you look at the satanic. The Church of Satan, United States, made popular by Anton LaVey, and that's when it really solidified.
Was he pre-Alister Crowley then, or after?
I think he was after. He was after Alister Crowley, but he made it like a movement in America.
Okay.
But
he's the guy you hear on interviews and stuff, right?
He's in a Mark Gazelic song. Anton LaVey. Da, 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 da.
I used to like Mark Gazelic
on guitar.
But anyways,
the point is. If you look at like the mission of the Church of Satan right now or in the past, the official mission, they don't believe in anything supernatural. Officially, they just believe in human animalism.
It's a humanist movement.
It's a human animalism movement. So whatever
you think they're telling you the truth.
No,
though?
I'm just telling the official their official mission statement.
To this day, is that their stance?
It's human animalism. So you have. Whatever you feel you want to do, you do. It's very much do what thou wilt. Very heavily inspired by Alister Crowley. It's human animalism. It's
kind of
the
makes
removal of all
sense.
concerns of society and the way you should engage with people.
Which based on an animalistic, like Jake, he would murder things like if he could. Like it's just
isn't the argument for the Satanists?
But he has empathy.
But the idea is empowerment,
I don't think
right?
he does.
I think the idea, at least the modern Satanist church, the idea is like your human empowerment, right? Like you do what thou wilt in the way that it's like you are the most important person. You're a human, but you're more than a human.
Enjoy life to the fullest extent, regardless of the consequences, maybe to others.
Yeah,
and you're
just fucked up. I think in any culture. How is that?
He's
smiling.
back.
We need some more sound effects in there. We need
whose laugh is that? Did we figure that out? You said it wasn't Greg. We'll bleep it out. Let's just bleep it. Let's leave it in, but let's bleep it out. It's Marion.
As long as you mix it well. Have you ever heard a podcast where someone uses a name and they bleep it out, but then the bleep is like 10 decibels louder than the rest of the conversation?
Terrible.
And then it's like every 30 seconds.
Yeah,
every 30 seconds is like, well, when I was speaking to yeah, and you're like, God damn it, I was taking a shower.
We just did that to our listeners.
Now I'm passed out in the bathtub.
I hope we don't edit that out.
We'll tone it down.
I hope we don't. I hope we leave that loud and then add reverb.
So they know we're feeling about it. No, we don't need that one anymore. Get some new ones, Jonathan.
I know, I do.
What was
Billy Zane?
Shoot.
Mark Wahlberg.
Demon Knight. That was a great film.
That was a great. What? Oh, Billy Zane.
Well, that's a wrap for episode 2 of Belief Hole. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed your time with us here today. We barely scratched the surface on this topic. Join us next time when we may be discussing anything from Bigfoot sex magic to CERN and its dimensional doorways.
Leave my body so I can
feel my world.